Hello crafty friends, welcome to today's smushing video. Today we're going to look at lots of different tools that you can use to smush on your projects. For my paper, my cardstock, I'm going to use this mixed media multi-techniques paint on paper from Clairefontaine. It's 250 GSM, £115, and it's suitable for acrylic, gouache, ink, pencil, charcoal, felt tip, gluing, oil pastels, ... So lots of different mediums you can use on this. But today I'm just going to use Distress Oxides in Wilted Violet and Peacock Feathers. In next week's video, next Saturday's video, we will look at different mediums that you can smush with, inks and paints and sprays and things like that. But today I'm going to stick with these inks so I can show you lots of different tools that you can use. So my favourite way to smush ink is to use a smusher. I do have a video in which I show you how to make a smusher. I shall link that in this video's description. But basically you put your medium down onto your mat or whatever you've got, a palette, add some water. You can use plain water, you could use a shimmer spray. This one's got a white mixer in it, it's a pearlized white mixer, so you can make your smushy paint with that, and then you put your smusher in, you pick up your paint and you smush it down. And you can dry that with a heat tool or a hairdryer, or you can leave it to dry naturally. If you want to add another colour on top and you want the colours to blend, then add it while the bottom layer is still wet. If you want to add another colour and you don't want them to blend, you just want them to layer one on top of the other, then dry first and then add your second colour. So that's my regular smusher. I do have a mini smusher, and all this is a blending foam handle with a domed foam on the top, some plastic bag around it, and then that's held in place with a hairband. You could use a rubber band, and again you just pick up your ink and smush it down, and this gives you really accurate smushing. If you pick up lots of watery ink and give it a good splat, you can get some nice splat lines from it. And there you can see the two different effects with the big smusher and the mini smusher. I do have a bubble wrap smusher, but I can't find it, so I will quickly make one and then come back to you with that. Right, I found my bubble wrap smusher, and you just use it the same way as a regular smusher. Pick up your watery ink and smush it on. As well as picking up ink with a bubble wrap smusher, you can smush with bubble wrap flat like this. So add some ink, add plenty of water, and then press your card or your paper down on top. For my next technique, I'm simply going to pick up the ink that I've left on the mat and press my paper down into it. And that gives a softer look, a more solid look compared to this. Again, you can dry it, so you can add another colour on top. You can pick up paint directly from your palette or mat. Speaking of mats, this is a bit of craft mat. This one is actually from the pound shop. It's oven baking tray liner. It's the same stuff as your craft mats. So I can put ink on it, I can spritz it with water, and I can pick up the paint from there. The paint does bead up on this a bit, so you get quite a nice effect with that. A classic way to add smushing is to use a piece of plastic packaging or acetate. So I've put a bit of Wilted Violet and Peacock Feathers on there. I'm going to give that a good spritz to enable the ink to move around. You can press the paper down onto the acetate, or you can press the acetate down onto the paper, either way. There's still plenty of ink on there. You can, instead of pressing it completely flat, you could just press little bits at a time. It's a bit like the smusher, but you're not able to be quite so accurate with your smushing. It's definitely worth playing with. And you can see with this one how, because I've used two colours, I've got a new colour forming, a sort of purpley grey or a greeny purple grey. For this technique, I'm going to use an acrylic block. So I'll just ink that up, get plenty of ink on it, give it a good spritz with water, and then press it down. I'll give that a second or two to sit and transfer. You could give it a twist like that, spread it about a bit, or you could leave it in its shape. You could now go in and pick up some more, and of course you're going to get that square shape in the smushing, which is a nice effect. And with some, if you've got lines grooved into it, you may get that pattern appearing in your smushing. And again, you can put two different colours on the same block, or more than two colours. Add it with a blending brush, add it with a sponge, add some water, press it down. There you go, that's very pretty. In a similar vein, you can use stamping foam. This is the foam that you can heat and then press texture into. There you go, more smushing. And you can leave it like that with a nice rectangular edge, or you could layer up your smushing like that. And of course you can add some texture to your stamping foam. This is a regular fun foam, craft foam, cheap as chips. You can add ink to that, you can spritz it, and you can pick up the ink with your card. If you've got a stamp positioner, you can use the door of it as a smushing block, for want of a better term. So add your ink, spritz with water, and then put your paper in it. It's another form of craft mat, really. And you can keep going until you've picked up all the ink that you want to pick up. Just make sure you give it a good clean afterwards. While we're on the subject of stamping, you can smush with stamps. So I've got a damask pattern stamp here. Just put some Distress Oxide onto that, and then give it a good squirt and smush your paper down into it. Press it down. When you lift it up, you'll get the smushing effect, but you may also get some of the pattern as well. Yeah, we've got some of the damask pattern peeking through there. So it's a nice kind of distressed looking background. And again, you can go in as many times as you like to pick up as much ink as you like. And the less water that's on there, the more likely you are to get some of the pattern. Yeah, so there's a bit more pattern on that. And here is a very old technique, one way back from primary school. I've got a folded piece of card here, and I'm going to use my smusher just to add some ink to one side, and then I do what I call the butterfly smush. You just press it over like that. It's how we used to make butterfly shapes. And there you have a symmetrical mirror image smush. This is a photopolymer grip mat. This can be inked up and you can smush with that. That's a lovely soft image. Another thing to smush on is an old die cutting plate. I wouldn't use it on a currently in use one because I think the ink could get down into the cuts and that might transfer onto things that you die cut in future. But this is an old one. You might find that some of the cut lines in your plate do transfer. So I've got here a large silicone stamp. I'm not going to stamp with the image bit, I'm just going to flip it over and ink it up. And you can do this with any large stamp, you can use that as a smushing surface. I do like to press on the back like this with a towel, just keeps my fingers a little bit cleaner. With something like this, because you've got thin bits of silicone and thick bits of silicone here, you might get some of the image transferred, and I think you can see a couple of leaf patterns there. Now on to stencils. So you could ink a stencil up specifically for smushing, or you could use a stencil that you've inked through so you don't waste the leftover ink. So there you've got a very watery, smushy background, and you can keep going again until you're happy that you've used all your ink. So cling film is another great thing that you can use for smushing. You could make your smusher using cling film instead of a bag, or you can just scrunch up some cling film and pick up and smush it down. Give it a good sort of twist and turn if you don't want the same kind of pattern repeated over and over. You can also just put some cling film on your surface, whatever that may be. Add some ink, add some water, and you can see how it's kind of scrunched up a bit. Press that down. And you've got some diffuse smushing and some line smushing. And you could scrunch it up even more and press it down, squish it around a bit like that, and then leave it to dry with the cling film on. Another tool is the embossing folder. So you can put ink on either side, just spread it around like that. Give it a good wet, plenty of water. Smush your paper down onto that and you get a really lovely watercolour-y pattern. You can do the other side. And you get the reverse of the pattern. And again, you can lift as many prints as you want from that. Also, you could run it through a manual die cutting machine, not an electronic one because you don't want to put water in those, but you could do the dry embossing as well, so you get your watercolour-y effect with the dry embossing. Now, lids are another thing you can use to smush with. I'm just using the lid of this Distress Oxide. You could find flat lids from anything you've got, and you can smush down like that and pick it up. So anything basically that you can ink up and then squirt with water, you can smush with. And really, you can't mess this up. For this smushing technique, I've got a wooden handle with a sponge, a flat sponge ink applicator on it, and I can soak up my smushy ink. I can make it really wet and I can smush with that. And get a lovely watercolory effect. For a smaller smush, I've got a finger dauber with a sponge on the end there. So as well as anything you can ink up, being a smushable tool, anything you can pick ink up with, you can smush with. So as a baby wipe, you get a very soft, ethereal look with a baby wipe. And you could keep that, let it dry out, and that might be an interesting material to add to a mixed media project. Here I've got some aluminium foil from the kitchen. That's as it came off the roll, and this is when I scrunched up. I can add water to that and smush. So with the flat foil, you just get a regular smushing look, but with the crumpled foil, you get quite a defined look. You can always go in and do a few more smushes. Flip that over and give it a good press. Flat foil, crumpled foil. This is a gel plate. I've got a whole series about things to do with gel plates, but you can use them for smushing. You can put distress oxides and other inks on them, as well as paints, acrylic paints. Add water and then smush. The less water you have, the more you get these kind of defined shapes, and the more water you have, the more the ink can move around, so you get more diffused mixed shapes. So I've got a little challenge for you. Have a hunt around your house, your office, your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedroom, your craft room, and see if you can find something non-crafty to smush with. And if you do manage to smush with something non-crafty, then come along to my Facebook group and share a photo of your smushing there. I'll leave a link to the Facebook group in the video description. Right, thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video and it's given you a few ideas of tools that you can use for your smushing. Don't forget, next Saturday we're going to look at smushing with different mediums, paints and inks, pastes, glues, that kind of thing. So if you'd like to watch that video, do subscribe and ring the notification bell. And if you have gleaned any ideas from this video, do let me know in the comments and leave a thumbs up. Right, thanks for watching. Bye for now.